been in the industry quite a while, and we love what we do. But our message to you today is we hope that you leave with a vision of where you really want to be in this industry. You know, where do you want to end up? You know, you don't want to drift through life. You want to have leadership skills, and I believe you got a lot of those this weekend. But our message to you, or my message to you today, is begin with the end in mind. It's really a very important statement. If you really think about it, you need to know where you're going in this business and where you want to be and where you want to end up. When you begin with the end in mind, what you do is you think, gosh, you know, I want to be maybe you want to be an emerald, you know, by Expo, and that's awesome, or a diamond, or wherever you want to end up. But when you make that decision, all the other decisions are very easy. You know, they're already made. You know that you're going to have to leave your kids sometimes. You know what you're going to have to do, you know, every day. I have to tell you, it's really easy when you've made up your mind that you're going to work this business and the decisions are made. You know, when you get up in the morning, you have a goal that you're going to, you know, build your business.
If you're a leader that comes into this and your goal is to slam as many people in as fast as you can on packs and hit your rank, I'm telling you something, what goes up fast, what happens? What comes down fast? And the problem is you're only as strong as the base or the foundation of your organization. If you want to build leaders, you're going to have to lock arms with some people. You're going to have to teach them and take them through the process. To attract leaders, you've got to become a leader. And so obviously, you're going to have to spend a lot of time on personal growth and development. In my 20s, we read almost 1,000 books in my 20s, learning because I really didn't know, and I still have a long way to go. I tell you what, the further you go, the further you can see. And the more you realize, you know, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And so I hope you guys take personal growth as not just something to do temporarily. This is something you're going to do the rest of your life if you want to leave a legacy. There's 3 phases of leadership. The first thing is when you get somebody involved, you got to focus on why they're in. If you get somebody in, y'all realize that, I mean, when I got involved years ago, it seemed like I could get somebody in and I had maybe 6 months to work with them before they went away. Today, we live in a microwave world and people get in. I mean, how many of you ever signed somebody up on Monday and they'd already quit by Friday? How many of you have started a New Year's resolution, but you've already failed at it so far? We're just starting in January. Okay, we've all done that. But what you've got to do is you've got to be able to identify people's why. If you go in there and say, hey, here's some products, whatever, they'll make you want them to make a decision as far as why they're going to do this the rest of their life. And somebody's dream is kind of like gas in a tank. If it's a little tiny gas in the tank, they're not going to go very far. And so learn to identify people's whys. And the goal in this one, of my talk, is to kind of tell you, become the leader, but then we got to go find these leaders. And so find their why. The better you know the why, the more solid of a business you're going to have. There's 3 questions that people ask when you show them the plan. They say, does this work? And they'll get in based on your belief, really. They're looking and saying, does this work? If it did work, would I like it? And can I do it? That's the 3 questions that you really have to overcome when you're showing them the program. If they answer yes to all those, you've got somebody who's going to join your team. Who would go through a form, people have heard about this, family occupation, just go through what it is that you do. You know, one of the questions I like to ask is I say, what do you do for fun when you're not working? And the number one answer I get today is typically, well, I used to do this or I used to do that, because when I was young, I had like 17 hobbies. When I got a girlfriend, I had like 12 hobbies. When I got a job, I had like 10 hobbies. When I got married, I had like 3 hobbies. When I had kids, boom, it was gone. I mean, I had no free time left. And so go identify their why. And again, the better you find their why, the stronger your relationship will grow with them. Listen to their struggle and identify with their struggle. This is an important one. If you go out there and try to solve somebody's problem, when you go show somebody the program, your goal is to find out what their need is and show them how Jeunesse will fill it. Is Jeunesse the answer for everyone? I believe so, but that's just me. I'm a little biased. It's not for everybody, and so don't get hung up when somebody says no to you. Number 2, you got to get them growing. You got to get them in motion. I'd love to go ahead and tell you all that, you know what, you can sit home on social media and you can go diamond overnight, not meet anybody, and not build any relationships. And I think at GoPro somebody went across and did that, but it was nice to meet them once because we won't see them again. Because it really takes relationship. It takes effort and it takes work. And if you go out there and tell people this is easy, have you ever gone ahead and tell, because sometimes we'll bump into people, and how many of you had somebody say, I don't know anybody and I can't talk to people? And I used to say, that's okay, I'll do it for you, I'll make the contacts and I'll help you. Have you ever told somebody that you're going to do it all for them? And they get in, and then what do? They wait for you to do it. And how fun is that? Well, you guys are quiet this morning. Some of you are like, I don't care, don't make me raise my hand again. So be honest about the effort. This is to get them growing. Be honest about the effort. Don't tell them it's something for nothing, because if you do, you just get a lot of people that will do nothing. Become a student. Get them learning. Get them learning about the business, Whatever process you have, get them learning about personal growth. Because what we're going to want to do is, again, we want a world-class team that we want to build up. We want an organization of leaders, and so you've got to get them committed to growing as a student in the business and as a student as far as personal growth and leadership. Be the example is the best way to go out there and do it. How many of you have got kids? You all know that they do what you do, not what you say? Okay, the same is true with building an organization. You're basically building an organization is like raising a really big family with thousands of kids. I mean, it really is until they become leaders and start to, kick them out of the nest and they become leaders themselves. Be the example. Get them mastering the pattern. The pattern for all of our industry is these 4 steps. These are income generating activities. Name this, invite, show the plan, follow through. Then sign them up and get that process rolling again. And we realized that at the very beginning, that the faster we got that wheel rolling, the faster our group was going to grow. And what you'll find is you'll have leaders in your group that may be good at contacting, and maybe they're good at showing the program, but maybe they're not good at follow through. The goal is to, when you grow a leader, is to know what their weaknesses are, find what their weaknesses are, and subsidize those weaknesses with your strengths until they start to get it and start to figure the thing out. Because if you've got somebody who can master those 4 things and they do it on a regular basis, watch out, you've got a big leader. So here's what I'm looking for in a leader. These are the 3 biggies that I look for. I look for somebody who's in motion, who's out there sharing this idea on a consistent basis. And how many of you realize consistency is the key to this thing? Okay, it's like walking up a down escalator. You got to walk fast enough to get to the top. You can be walking but going so slow that you're not going anywhere, but if you're going really slow, that escalator is going to take you back to the bottom again. And 15 kind of seems the number. It's the number of exposures that we've seen in 30 years that can actually get you there. I'm looking for somebody who's attending everything. I'm looking for somebody I don't have to worry about whether they're in the room or not. I'm looking for somebody who's promoting anything. If I can find somebody that's those 3, I will invest the majority of my time in that person until we win. Because it's hard to steer a parked car. I mean, it's hard to do it. You get that car in motion, and I'll tell you what, now you'll have something you can kind of work with and steer. And so get them up and get them moving and get them through that phase. And the last phase is the phase that kind of glues them in. And this is the phase where leaders who build leaders. Because in reality, if you look at Maxwell's book, The 5 Levels of Leadership, the top leadership level is leaders who lead leaders, who lead leaders, who lead leaders. And if you want an organization of 40,000 people, you're going to want a base of leadership. It'll take you 400 or 500 good leaders to go out there and hold together an organization like that in the long term. And so one of the things that's the most important is character counts. In our industry, in 30 years, I actually got this. I got in before the internet. I actually got in and had my first computer was a Mac computer. Or not a Mac, it was what's the Commodore 64. We'd go type it in order, we'd go have dinner and come back and it would finally spit the number out. And you used to be able to, there were people who come into our industry, and you'll see them online. They usually have lots of pictures of themselves, lots of pictures of their quotes, lots of pictures doing this, but they don't have a lot of leaders behind them sometimes, not all of them. But it used to be that somebody could come in and not have character. They could hop to company, they go mess with people and take their money and jump to another company. But I'll tell you what, in today's age, y'all realize that what it is you do in life is in the clouds and everyone can see it? I was talking to a leader yesterday about a company that he's actually having legal problems with. He left that company. That company did a lot of things that they really shouldn't have done, and so they just changed the name of the company. Why do you suppose they did that? Because they're trying to hide so that nobody can find them online. Now, the problem is if you and I do that, what happens? Okay, we can't change our name. So whatever it is you do, build this like the whole world is watching, because ultimately, if you build it big, they are. If you're going to build a big organization, there's people in our industry that are out there. You just Google them, and you're going to realize real quick you don't want to be in business with those folks. And so character counts. Do the right thing. When nobody's looking, never mess with somebody's business. Never mess with somebody's spouse. Never mess with somebody's again, you're all quiet. But this is kind of serious if you want to have a large organization. Do the right things, and do the right thing for your people. When you sell out to the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of all the people in your team, and you're willing to go to bat for them, and you do the right thing, I tell you what, you'll have a loyal army that'll follow you a long ways. And so character counts. Next one, as far as building an organization. You got to recognize your people. One of the things I said is our industry tends to be a little narcissistic. As people kind of grow, it's like kind of look at me and here, and all that's cool. That's part of branding. But at some point, turn the camera around and point it at the people, the leaders that are in your group, and recognize them. Because you know what? Most people, again, have never gone through that. If you have an organization, where there's a leader, and I'm promising you, you're going to get leaders. I asked a mentor of mine one time, I said, how do you find leaders and build leaders? He said, what I do, at the beginning of the year, I go ahead and identify who could be good. I go ahead and sit down with these people. I talk to them. We make some goals. And I go work for them for a year, and what happens is a diamond will break over there. I said, what? I said, explain that to me again. He said, no, I work with the people. I spend some time. We set some goals. I work really hard for a year, and then a diamond will break over there. I said, what about the people you're working with? He said, oh, and they never grow. They just wait for me. I said, well, how does that work? He said, what happens is I set the example down here, and he said, I'll break some diamonds down here, but what will happen is I'll set an example where people are watching, and they'll go build it because they don't have my time, and they'll build it by themselves and not wait for me because I'm too busy. And those are some of your best leaders out there. And if you go out there and the camera's always on you as the leader, this guy's going to eventually get a little mad that you're not putting the camera on him because he kind of built his own team. So if you want to build a large organization, recognize your leaders as much as you can. We had an organization where one time we had an event where everyone that was going across stage was mentioning their upline diamond, and there were diamonds on my team, but my name was never mentioned. And somebody asked me, I said, how do you feel about that? I said, I feel awesome. I feel awesome because I'm now not necessary to be part of the puzzle. You want to pass the leadership down. The idea is to grow kids, but you don't want them living in your house at 40 years old. At some point, you want them to turn around and become adults. That's what we're doing. That's what with leadership. Never be jealous of your leaders. Most people go ahead, they pray for a leader, and then they find one, and they're mad because they want to lead. Wait, you're not listening to me. Well, I want to be a leader. Okay, you're not a boss, you're a leader in this thing. That's why I love a lot of the best leadership coaches are guys who are pastors, because in a church, it's a volunteer army. You've got not only as a volunteer army, they're paying to come to you to work for you in your church. And so a lot of the Maxwells and a lot of the Stanleys, those kind of guys, those guys are all great leadership coaches. And so with that, recognize your leaders, think long term. Dexter Yeager, who just passed away this last week, is a huge mentor of mine. And he said, you show me a long-term thinker, and I'm going to show you a wealthy person. Don't do this in little increments. Again, like Tracy said, begin with the end in mind. And problem solver is probably the biggest one. If you have a small group, small problems. Big group, what? Okay. Learn to solve problems. Pick your battles wisely. Think win-win. Being right versus being successful. Be smart about that. My nickname with the past has always been, I'm called the fireman, because whenever there's a problem, they bring me and we try to go ahead and solve the deal. And the last one is this, be stable. Can you imagine if your kids were crying and they came and talked to you and you started to cry too and have a fit too? What do you think how they're going to react? Be the leader. You're the one that goes ahead. You've got a can of gas in one hand and a can of water in the other hand. And when somebody comes to you a problem, and it's a big problem, throw the water on it. You throw the gas on it and it's over. You're going to lose people. And so be stable. Don't jump around. We've got the greatest opportunity right here. There's no place I would rather be at 53 years old and 30 years in this industry with this company, with these people, with the diamonds they put in the timeout boxes up here. I'm not sure why we're in timeout, Katie, but anyway, appreciate that. And be the stability. There's no place we'd rather be, and we got a lot of work to be done. And so God bless you guys. Let's go build a dynasty. Thanks.